Welcome to the regular meeting held on Wednesday, March 14, 2018. Can I have a roll call, please?
Freeholder Graham.
Here.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Here.
Freeholder Cotillo. Here. Freeholder Director Rose.
Present.
Freeholder Yardley.
Present.
Can I have a moment of silence and a salute to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice is defined by Section 3D of Chapter 231, PL 1975 has been made by regular mail. Such notice being submitted on March 2nd, 2018 from the Administrative Center of the County of Sussex, located at 1 Spring Street, Newton, New Jersey, to the following: New Jersey Herald, New Jersey Sunday Herald, Star Ledger, WSUS Radio, WNJ Radio, and is also posted on the bulletin board maintained in the Administrative Center for public announcements and has been submitted to the Sussex County Clerk in compliance with said act. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Patillo.
Second.
Second by Lazaro. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Resolution regarding providing for an executive closed session not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 10:4-12 et seq. Whereas the subject matters about to be discussed may be excluded from the public portion of the meeting by resolution of the Board of Chosen Freeholders as an exemption to the Open Public Meetings Act pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12b. And whereas it appears necessary for the Board of Chosen Freeholders to discuss such matters in executive session, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Sussex, in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 10:4-12b and NJSA 10:4-13, that the Board at this time enter into an executive session from which the public shall be excluded, and be it further resolved that the general nature of the subjects to be discussed related to the following items authorized by NJSA 10:4-12b as designated below: matters relating to litigation negotiations and attorney-client privilege, 1. Bork litigation, 2. Opioid litigation. Be it further resolved that the deliberations conducted in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Sussex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, or provided by law that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality, and be it further resolved that upon completion of the business for which the Board has entered into executive session, the Board shall reconvene and resume its meeting open to the public. Can I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Motion by Patillo.
Second.
Second by Yardley. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Cotillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley.
Yes. Okay.
Proclamations, certificates, presentations. We need to come back out. Can I have a motion to close executive session for regular business? Motion by Graham, second by Patillo. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Here.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Oh, yes.
Freeholder
Yes.
Cotillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley.
Yes.
Proclamations, certificates, presentations. Proclamations. Proclamation in recognition of March 11th through the 17th, 2018 as Girl Scout Week. I have a motion. The proclamation. Motion by Patillo.
Second.
Second by Graham. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Graham, would you present the proclamation to the Girl Scouts?
Bring in the Girl Scouts. Everybody's so polite. Come on, make no noise. So who's the best Girl Scout?
Oh, it depends.
It's her.
Well, it depends
First
on
one
what
to
you
speak.
mean.
So let me ask you a question. What's the best thing about being a Girl Scout?
Helping others.
Helping others. 2 people said that. That's it. Yeah. What about hanging around with your friends? Well, I was my daughter was a Girl Scout. My sisters were Girl Scouts. I get to do the proclamation. I'm all excited about this. So March 11th through 17th is Girl Scout Week. I guess everybody knows that. So which troop are we from here? You go from the same troop? Okay, where are you from?
5015.
50, where's that?
Green
Green
Township.
Township?
5688
Newton?
5015.
From Green?
Green.
Oh, Green?
1070 Green.
1070. A lot of green people here.
And 5015 from Green.
5015 from Green.
5015.
Oh.
Green?
4542 from Green.
Green, a lot of green.
4542 from Green.
Take your time.
6308 from Green.
From Green, okay. I'm going to read all this stuff on here. All it means is it's Girl Scout Week, but we're going to read it anyway, okay? Whereas the Girl Scout, well, I'll tell you what, you're going to take a picture and stuff, but why don't you girls come on up here? Come on up here. Because it's for you, it's not for us, okay? Come on up here and walk, stand up here. And smile for the camera because you're like on TV. Okay? All right. So I'm going to read this proclamation. You know what proclamation is? Proclamation means that we wrote all this wonderful stuff about Girl Scouts by the Freeholder Board, and think we're important, so we're saying this to you, okay? Whereas Girl Scouts are recognized as a national leader, the Girl Scouts is national leader in providing the best leadership development experience in the world for girls, and Girl Scouts brings time-tested methods and research-backed programs that speak to the strengths of girl leadership and development, backed by more than 100 years of experience and expertise in the field. Did you know it's 100 years old? You all knew that? Mm-hmm. Even everybody from Green? Girl Scouts develop their leadership potential through activities that enable them to discover their values, skills, and the world around them, connecting with others in multicultural environment. And Girl Scouting is continuing a legacy of creating gender-balanced leadership in the United States and in the world. And it's in its second century of service to girls by providing girls with tools to become leaders dedicated to making this country and the world a better place. I got one other question too. How many of you girls are going to be Girl Scout leaders someday? Don't everybody put your hands up. It's obviously a tough job being a Girl Scout leader. Girl Scouts offer hands-on, girl-led, girl-centered learning in STEM, the outdoors, entrepreneurship, abundant opportunities to develop invaluable life skills, helping all girls take the lead early and often. Only Girl Scouts offers girls a one-of-a-kind opportunity to become a Gold Awards Girl Scout by engaging in leadership at the highest levels while addressing an issue they feel passionately about. And the Girl Scout Gold Award, the highest honor a Girl Scout can earn, acknowledges each recipient's power and dedication, not only bettering herself, but for making the world a better place for others. Girl Scouting was founded in 1912 by Juliet Gordon Lowe, whose life mission was to build girls' courage, confidence, and character. Through her legacy, continues to have an extraordinary influence on the lives of millions of girls across the country. And today there are more than 59 million girls. American women are Girl Scout alumni, and 2.6 million girls and adult volunteers are active members. And right here in Sussex County, New Jersey, there are over 2,700 girls and adult members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that our director put his hand on this. I, Jonathan Rose, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Freeholder Director of the great county of Sussex County, do hereby applaud the Girl Scout movement and Girl Scouts in northern New Jersey, and recognize Girl Scout Week in Sussex County as the week of March 11th through the 17th in 2018, in celebration and recognition of the girl-led, all-girl space where girls thrive and develop their talents and leadership skills. Now, after hearing this, how many are going to become leaders of Girl Scouts? I gave it a shot.
Ask them who's going to take over the world.
Who needs to be a leader when you're taking over the world? Are there any of the moms that want to come up here and stand here
Well, we would
and accept
like-
this also? Who are the Girl Scout leaders here?
This is Sue.
Can we bring in a couple of Girl Scout leaders?
And this is our service unit leader for the Newton service unit, which consists of
Well, why don't you come on?
Newton, Andover, and Green. Donna Portilli, and it wouldn't be Girl Scout Week if we didn't present you with
Which one?
some Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, these are mine. How do you guys did this? These are mine. Now, I hear that, I was just making a note that the Thin Mints don't work, because I've eaten a whole box of them, it doesn't work.
A serving is not a seed.
That's because you're
Yeah.
not.
Jonathan Rose, Freeholder Director, Sylvia Patillo, Deputy Director, George Graham, Freeholder, Herb Yardley, Freeholder, Carl Lazaro, Freeholder. Who's the designated leader in this group here?
That would be
That's
Mrs.
you?
Griffin.
Come over here. I want to thank you very much
Oh,
for
you're
what you do
welcome.
for the girls.
Thank you very
And
much.
can you say
Thank
something to our audience here?
I have to say, we merged probably 5 years ago between Andover, Newton, and Greene, as in one service unit. So we have right now over almost, 200 girls, I think, all together. And they are an amazing group of girls. They really are. And we have great leaders, and they're just, they're great. They really are. They
And we
all
would
get
like
along.
some more, so. come
Yeah,
on and
if you have
join.
any more, just keep bringing them. We like them.
Well, I want to thank you all, young ladies.
Thank you
Especially
very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the cookies. Did you guys take up a collection, or
Oh, from our cookie booth.
it's from the cookie booth?
From part of our cookie booth, should we say?
Which
This lady's a leader.
It's my Staples and Hyatt's, there'll be a cookie booth.
Thank you very much.
very much. Thank you.
I was just going to say that I spent a lot of time with the Scouts and PACOM when I was there, and especially at Girl Scouts, and they are different because of the program and the leadership that comes from all of you standing there in the back. And I want to thank you for putting the time into them and investing into these kids, because they are our next leaders. And they probably will take over the world.
Probably.
And then we can rest.
Every single one, raise their hand.
They have much bigger plans than just being a leader for Girl Scouts. They're going to move up. But there's something about their character and the way they react to people that I always saw in the Girl Scouts. You're very special. I really encourage you to go through your bronze and your silver and stay for the gold. Because it will make a difference in your life, and it'll make a difference in your leadership abilities as well. There's a great training that comes from this program. So it's nice to see you and celebrate with you.
Well, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
to our meeting, and
Yeah.
thank you to the leaders for all the hard work you do out in our community, not just with the girls, but also for the community itself. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, presentations. Lakeville Packline Foundation Annual Report, Marty King.
Thank you. Pass them along.
Brian, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to give our annual update on what's going on the south end of the county, over at Lake Apacon. We appreciate it. It's been a really great start to the year for us over there, and I think it's going to be a really good season. So hopefully you'll share my enthusiasm that it's a very good news report this year. For those of you that aren't that familiar with us, the Lake Apacon Foundation is a nonprofit that actually we just celebrated our sixth birthday, so we're a fairly new organization at 6 years old. But basically we were founded with the concept of like the Central Park Conservancy, if you will, to take care of things that the government either was unable to or unwilling to take care of that could maybe be addressed through private sector. We have a small staff. We're going to be moving into our own home this year.
All right.
At the Lake Apacon Station, and we hope we're starting to really make a mark. What I just want to do is go through some of the projects that we are working on right now, just so you have an idea. And please, if you have any guidance you'd like to give us, or any thoughts on where we can better use our resources, we really appreciate it. The Lake Apacon Trail is one of our really iconic projects that we're involved in. We got through the Borough of Apacon last year through 10 miles of trails that we created. It's really the first step in what will be a 40-mile trail completely around the lake. We got up to the Jefferson border. We're now working on some funding to get through Jefferson in 2018, and then we'll go on to Mount Arlington and into Roxbury. It'll be not a trail that's right along the lakefront. We're way too many years late for that, but it will be 40 miles of trail that come down to the lake in about 5 different places, completely circle the lake. And some of the views, particularly in the Borough of Opacum, are just outstanding. People can't believe, the mountains that Opacum has that are completely natural. And basically the trail starts in Hopacking at the old golf course and goes past the high school and literally goes into the woods. So we're very excited about that. The floating classroom is the one, in fact, we just got the word today that the boat has been built. They're ready to ship from Florida. We contracted for the boat last fall. This has been a project we've been experimenting with the towns surrounding the lake. Over the last few years, basically we've got fourth graders taking them out on the lake, giving them a day's experience on the lake. Up till now, if the kids from anywhere in this area did an environmental day, they had a bus all the way down to Sandy Hook, which was very difficult, especially when you're in Sussex County. But the project at Lake Hopatcong is one where all the local schools have to do is get the kids to Hopatcong State Park, and we completely take over from there. Our program is free to the local schools surrounding the lake, and we've actually been surprised by some of the interest in places like Byram, Andover, so now we're looking to be able to expand the program. Right this year, we're going to get off to a slow start. We don't want to overdo it with the new boat. It's a 40-foot patio boat we had built. It's like 40 by 12. It can take a full class plus teachers and aides, and that's the concept. And what we really found around the lake was there could be kids living in the borough of Hopatcong, literally a block off Lake Hopatcong, and have never been out on a lake. And that's what we wanted to make sure doesn't happen in the future, is that every kid that lives around the lake will actually get to spend some time on the lake. We have a curriculum that's really first through high school. Like I said, we're going to start out with the fourth graders, but it's going to expand to everything. So that's another really iconic kind of project that we're very excited to, to be able to get going. We stole a lot of it from a very successful program up at Lake George, and I think it's going to be, something that years from now people are going to go, wow, it's just a regular part of kids going to school in this area. The weeds is always a constant situation we deal with. We've had an ongoing weed investigatory survey, whatever you want to call it. Right now, the way we handle weeds at Lake Hopatcong is we basically cut them. That's really the only major treatment. Some private people use herbicides. But what we've looked at is we feel we needed to expand that. It's very expensive to cut the weeds. Just have to keep coming back and do it again. So we're into a number of different tests and trials right now. The most exciting one that we're looking to start, we get the DEP's approval. It's been, I'll say, pushed by the mayor of Hopatcong, Mayor Francis, for some time, which is the weed-eating carp. It has a lot of potential. It's used in about 1,500 bodies of water in New York State. It's used in the largest lake in Connecticut, but until now, New Jersey DEP has not allowed them in any bodies of water over 10 acres. So we're very excited about the possibility of a small trial in Lake Hopatcong. Crescent Cove, which I know Freeholder Patillo knows very well, which is it seems like a perfect environment to see if they can do some good there. The nice part about the weed-eating carp, they're sterile, so you don't have to worry about the population expanding. You don't have to pay salaries and benefits. They live for up to 10 years with about a 10% mortality rate. So there's different models you can rely on as far as stocking, but they seem to really work well in certain environments. And want to see if Lake Hopatcong could be one of those. Invasive species, any lake you have to really deal with that. Those of you that go to New York State know a lot of the lakes now have zebra mussels and other real problems. We're trying to keep them out of Lake Hopatcong. We have a couple of programs. Our water scouts are people that go out in kayaks, really kind of looking for things, and tag them when they find things. Mostly they deal with some of the invasive weeds. And our lake stewards are usually high school people that we get out there talking to people that trailer in boats from elsewhere, warning them that living species can stay in your boat for a week or more when you bring, you're up in a lake such as Lake George, so you have to be kind of careful what you're doing there. The quality of life initiatives, we try to do a lot of them just to make people feel better about living at Lake Hopatcong. The landing gateway, those of you that have probably ever come to Lake Hopatcong, a lot of you, especially if you come into the borough of Hopatcong, you come off Route 80 onto exit 28, and the first thing you see when you see Lake Hopatcong It's the most ugly, structures you've ever seen. It's just like, a stone, it's just, a concrete wall with a fence on top of it, and that's your introduction to Lake Apacon. So we've started an initiative. Roxbury's really jumped on board. That whole bridge is going to be redone over the railroad, and we're going to really recreate that entire area. We're very excited.
Are they going to put a sign that says we have a train station?
We're really trying to work with New Jersey Transit. That's a very interesting agency to work with.
This is the bridge with the old trolley came through?
Exactly.
That is one of the most interesting spots. I have some incredibly old, great pictures, because you have the train, you have the trolley, and the canal.
Right,
All came in at the same
steamboats.
spot.
Yep.
It's an amazing place.
It's true. That bridge, it's federal money coming from Morris County. It's still on the calendar for 2019. They haven't started the property acquisition, but they have had the engineers and the surveyors out, so we know that it's starting to move forward. And they really are working with us on what the streetscape will be in that whole area. So.
Do they have a plan once they take that cement and that fence down? They have
Yes.
to say something.
And they're taking, there was a committee set up just for that purposes, and they've been very, actually, willing to work with us on the materials we're suggesting. So, that's hopefully one in like 3 years. You won't recognize it when you come up that way, in a good way.
Yeah.
Safety, we continue to do funding of the state police. Basically, we ran into a situation there where state police patrols didn't go past a certain amount, like past 7 o'clock on weekends, which is the time you really want the state police on the lake when people come home, maybe after a few cocktails at a place on the lake or other situations. So what we do is we fund Friday and Saturday night patrols into the wee hours. And we've also had some very good success working with the new state police commander on trying to get them to move their hours off from early in the morning on weekdays, where you really don't need patrols on the lake, to kind of later tours of duty. So there's some progress being made, and it actually been pretty calm on the lake last year, and it was a very busy season. Lee's going to step up and talk about the block party. We try to do just programs at the lake that make people just feel good about being there. We have a lake loop, which is a bicycle ride around the entire lake. We have the block party that's coming up in about 6-7 weeks. And finally, the station. That's going to be our new home. In fact, you mentioned the bridge. Right by the bridge is an old stone building that was a train station. It's right on the border, of Hopatcong and Roxbury, on the Roxbury side. We're going to move in there. We've been in borrowed space over at Nolan's Point since our existence.
It's great.
And
it's great you're going to repurpose that building.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We've gotten some really good grants on that to move it along. And when I was in there today, they were just starting to put the ceilings on, the floors are in, the plaster's on the walls. We're starting to make progress. We'll actually be open this year. And it's going to serve, in addition to our offices, as a community center. We expect to have all kinds of programming in there for the community. Just a couple of recent events to go over. I know most of you realize Senator Oroho was tremendously helpful in getting a steady course of funding, or source of funding for the lake. That's always been a problem for us, is where would money come from to do weed harvesting or other things. The money is being directed from the boat registration fees. So it's now a steady source of funding. It's $500,000 a year, every year. So it's an incredibly important accomplishment up at the lake, just to have a source of funding that you know is going to be there every year. And it's really given new life to the Lake Apacon Commission to allow them to do what they were set up to do. Historic preservation, we got $259,000 from the state this year for the train station. That allows us to finish the interior of the building. The grass eating carp I've already mentioned, but we've had meetings with DEP. We're going to go back there. The Lake Apacon Commission just this week completely unanimously approved moving forward with it also, because we work very closely with the Lake Apacon Commission, which is the governmental agency, if you will, that was set up. The 319H grant funding, unfortunately, that was always a source of funding for lakes in this area, but since Hurricane Sandy, it's all gone down to the Jersey Shore. We're trying now to try to get some of that money more back into this area, because for a lot of lakes, such as Hopatcong and other lakes in Sussex County, that was the only source of funding they had for grants. So that's important when we're trying to work with our legislators on that, and that's really our advocacy function. And the other thing, the last thing I'll leave you with is, we're trying to get some of our elected officials up to Lake Pacom. For quite some time, we really haven't had a lot of success in getting some of the statewide elected officials up to the lake, just to kind of show them where it is and what we are. And usually when we get them there, they're very impressed and surprised that this resource is actually in New Jersey. So we're trying to get them out here. So hopefully we'll have some success in that, especially when we're going to be christening the floating classroom coming up, opening up the train station, things like that. We'll be able to, you'll see some news on that. And actually, Senator Orho's been actually very hopeful to helping us open a few doors on that level.
Marty, could you just take a few minutes and talk about what you do for the veterans on the cruise?
I'm going to have this person step right up and do that. Well, why don't you
do the block party first?
Yeah. Okay.
So my name is Lee Moreau. I'm one of Marty's wingmen. All right. I worked at Picatinny. We've retired at Picatinny, and now we spend all of our time going around Lake Pacom trying to make it better for the community. The block party, well, this will be its 5th year. Last year was actually rained out. So it's actually our 4th try. It's got better every year. It really represents, it's kind of a virtual main street of the 4 towns that attach to it. We have 234 vendor booths. There's about 20 left. And it's what? So we're doing very well. It shows how engaged the community is. There's probably 1/3 small business, 1/3 nonprofit, and 1/3 crafter. We've got things to do like boat rides on the Missalata, trackless train ride on the station. So if you haven't already got the 12th of May booked, write it into your calendar and come spend half a day with us. You wouldn't be wasting your time. We've never had a great weather day. We've always been challenged every year, but we've had 2,000 people show up, under very marginal weather conditions. So again, it's a testimony to the community's buy-in, engagement, and their own community. There's really not a whole lot more to say. It is the biggest collection of people on one day on the lakefront. So it really is an opportunity to come out and meet some people, renew your acquaintances with folks. My example with Marty is we're hoping to make it be a can't-miss event. When we grew up with our young kids, we would go to the Mine Hill Carnival, the Water Carnival, because that's where everybody spent at least 1 or 2 nights in a week just to catch up and see your families and friends. So we're hoping to create that same kind of a venue for the lake. So that's pretty much it. We do try to be as Freeholder Patillo knows, when she was the mayor of Opakron, we get all 4 towns to lock hands and bring their fire departments, their nonprofits, their ambulances, the first aid stations, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts. Try to demonstrate to the community that everybody on that day is hand in hand working for the betterment and the goodwill of everybody in the community. So anyway, hope to see a lot of you on 12th May. So let me switch hats because I don't want to confuse the boat with the nonprofit. The Missalata, I have the privilege of being one of the captains on the Missalata, and that is just a great job. Personally, I get to meet a lot of people, I get to help connect a lot of people, and entertain them, and even marry them, believe it or not. And that's getting to be more and more important for the boat. So if anybody wants to renew their vows, I'll be happy to do that for you. But you wanted to know about the Veterans Cruise. So the owners very graciously give the boat up for 2 cruises on the weekend, the 4th of July weekend. We don't do it on Memorial Day because that's kind of a somber day. And the boat's out of the water by the time Veterans Day rolls around. And the lake is positioned to celebrate them because it is the 4th of July weekend. It's the morning after the fireworks. And we take 2 boatloads of veterans. Each of the 4 towns sends 2 dozen veterans over to the boat. And we treat them to a free boat ride and brunch. And we take them around the lake, and all the people who live there salute them, play music with them, put their flags out, clap for them. They come out in kayaks, they come out in their boats.
It's a
and every year it gets
wonderful thing to see.
bigger and better. As a matter of fact, Opakron last year, they closed the bridge, half of it, so they could bring the town up and let us get the boat very close. Everybody doesn't have a bridge like you do in Opakron, but now Jefferson is copying that idea on Brady Bridge. And Roxbury was very upset that we couldn't get the boat really onto their shoreline. So we actually went down this past season with a stick and rode on a patio boat to chart a course all the way down to Lake End so we can go along the shoreline of Roxbury and include them. So it really is popular. I've been on it every time. It's heartwarming.
It is.
Thank you for your service. And a lot of the veterans in each of the towns don't necessarily, that's the wrong word, network. But this boat allows them to go up to the Esplanade American Legion and have lunch with their family after the cruise, because there's not enough seats to include all the family members and stuff. So the veterans have a great time, and then they can join their family members up at the American Legion in Esplanade. And other than that, that's it. So if you haven't been on the Miss Lotta, come on up and give the Miss Lotta a try. I know Mr. Poff has. We've had him on the boat in the past, and I think I recognize some of the faces up here who've been on the boat as well.
Now I know where I saw you.
It's the names, the faces I never forget. You can track of all the names, but yes, I do recognize you from the boat. But anyway, it's a great job, and the owners are very gracious to put that boat out there. And we have a couple of Marines come out on the boat and salute every veteran as they come on the boat, and they've got some, I don't want to be inappropriate here, some little old ladies who put pillows and blankets together, and they give them a little care kit. So they go home with a blanket or a pillow or something like that. It's just a wonderful, wonderful day. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's a great day. I just want to say that with the Lake of Paccon Foundation, you changed everything in the lake. The 4 towns, we knew each other, but we never joined together to do anything. And this has brought the towns together, the people together. Your resources add so much to everything. And they're right, if you've never had a tour of Lake of Paccon, go onto the internet, look up Miss Lotta, and come down and take a tour on the boat. It's beautiful. And actually, Marty is one of the tour guys, right? There's a tour with you on it now.
I do a little historic.
He does a historic
Or my
narration.
museum hat.
Yeah, but Lee's always on the boat. And I have to say that veterans cruise, I've seen veterans crying, I've seen them hugging each other. They're so excited. They get on the senior bus, you take them down there, they're treated so beautifully. And the part is, when they come to each area of the lake, the town, our Boy Scouts are there, our Girl Scouts on the bridge waving their flags, Provinci has music play. It's unbelievable to see the whole community come out and give praise and honor to these men and women that have served our country. Some of them, we had a couple of World War II vets still with us, and they were on the cruise as well. And then you have the boats that are around with all of their flags. And I just want to talk about Bob Gallo, because that was such a beautiful thing that you did to him, a Marine. They brought the boat up close, and I guess you had another Marine ask if they could come onto the dock.
Yeah.
And then you served him with that beautiful blanket. He had veterans there. He was having a party to have his flags waving, and when you went and honored him like that, I happened to stop over afterwards. The whole place was tears.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just it's such a heartfelt, warming feeling. Like, I can't even explain it on the lake that day, because all the attention is on the veterans, and it's beautiful.
Yes, thank you. I should pay you for that. So if you have a boat, come on out on the lake that day. You get to experience it. It's really wonderful, and thank you for your time. It's great to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, thank you very, very much for listening to us. And thank you for your support all year, especially when we're going for the 500,000. The support from the Freeholders was greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Lee.
Now we have a presentation from Chief Peter Zabita from Byron, Chief Neil Spitoletta from Florida, about the police food drive.
We're back again this year. Last year we ran our food drive, the Crown Cruiser. This is going to be our 2nd year that we are doing it countywide. 3rd year for Byron, 2nd year for everybody. We actually even got Vernon on board with their Acme way up north. So we will be at every grocery store in the county pretty much on the 31st. I believe Franklin is going to be doing their stores on the 24th. And we're basically going out, the officers are volunteering their time. We're taking our patrol cars, we're going in front of the grocery stores, and whatever people want to donate, we are collecting, and we are bringing to your most wonderful Lady Carol to hand out to all those that are in need. I think last year we got over 40,000 pounds of food that we were able to collect and bring up. So it is a wonderful thing for us, because we get to finally see people on a good day instead of their worst day. So we really enjoy it. The officers, the first year were a little hesitant, and once they got involved in it, there's no time for me to do it anymore. They're signed up in all the slots to do it. So it's a very good thing, and any support that you guys can give in getting the word out there so that people are aware of it and can come out and understand what we're doing and where the food's going, greatly appreciated. We all use our social media from the police departments and through the towns, but getting the word out through the whole county would be very helpful.
Yeah, we appreciate your support, obviously, last year, and this continued year, and this upcoming year. We'd like to recognize our sponsors, Stephen Rachel Scrub, also helped and assist in this important endeavor. Eric Nielsen from Sussex County Automobile has been a big assistance as well. And of course, we couldn't be more proud to help Carol and the Sussex County Food Bank in delivering, as much as we can during these times. I know it's needed throughout the entire year, but we try to do it, help out with Stuff the Bus in November, and we do it again around Easter time. So it's important for us, absolutely, and I'm sure that it'll be a success with everybody's help and assistance.
Have you, you said you have stuff on Facebook? Do you have like events set up that we can share on now?
I believe I just posted today on Sparta's page. I don't know if
Yeah,
you-
I haven't put mine up yet. We're going to start collecting in our stations on the 15th. So basically, any police station, county sheriff, state police, you can drop off food donations there. And then on the specific days on the bottom, we'll be at those locations collecting. So if you check on Byron's, probably by tomorrow afternoon, I'll have something on there that you could share. Or
We left some forms too, I think.
yeah,
Can you bring some?
yeah, we handed those out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's the list of the food items that the food pantries requested that they use the most of. So that, if anybody's walking into the store, we'll hand them one of those flyers so they know if they, something in particular. But I've had people come out with shopping carts full of food and wheel it up and pull one bag out and say, okay, the rest is yours, and walk away. It's absolutely amazing what people are willing to do for others.
Plus the enthusiasm of the officers.
Yes.
I've lived in Stanhope, so last year with Byram, I know all your officers.
Yeah, Stanhope and Pacon help us out.
Yeah, very big.
Hardison goes and helps Franklin, Sheriff's Department, Andover go up to Newton. So, not every town has a grocery store, so we all kind of pitch in where the help is needed.
But we consider that's the Stanhope shopper.
You can have Steve answer all the calls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No public hearings. We have a public session from the floor. Please note, everyone is asked to keep their comments to 5 minutes or less and only address issues regarding agenda items followed by a 3-minute response time from the Freeholder Board. Please state your name, print your name and municipality on the sign-in sheet, which is on the podium there. Do I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
So moved.
Motion by Lazaro, second by Graham. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The floor is open to the public.
I just have a question. My name is Carolyn Herkel.
Can you just
I'm sorry. My
Please
name is
write your
Carol-
name and a municipality. I'm sorry. Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Herkel Ortali, and I just have a question. How do we go about addressing you with an emergency concern regarding special needs children?
Actually,
Carol just walked out.
So Carol will be coming back in a second, but at the end of the meeting, there will be a public session. It'll be open for any questions, and at that time, you can talk. Can you wait another hour or so?
Special needs?
You're better off
She's
talking to
talking.
Carol.
To Carol directly.
Carol's
Yeah.
coming in.
Carol's the person that's
You know, we'll point
She'll
her out
make,
when she
she'll
comes
make
in.
things happen.
Thank
Yes.
you. God bless all people.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? And anyone else? Seeing no one else in the public, can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public and return to regular business? Motion by Yardley, second by Patillo. Discussion?
Is she there?
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Hi.
Those
It's in the
opposed?
boat, right?
The ayes have it. The floor is closed to the public. Freeholder comments. Freeholder Graham?
Don't have a whole lot. I have some issues on human services. I missed last meeting, so I really didn't have much on that. I do want to start by saying a heartfelt thank you to the many dozens, I guess, probably 100 different people that were mobilized and worked with the county to dealing with the last 2 storms. I know a lot of people had a lot of discomfort in having their power out for a long time, but we were mobilized right away at the 911 center. What's the proper term?
Emergency Operations Center.
Emergency Operations Center. The sheriff mobilized immediately. His staff was on call 24/7, going from the point in time from, I guess you started Thursday night?
The center was mobilized Friday morning.
Friday morning, right straight through the weekend and through the following 10 days, including the second snowstorm. I had an opportunity to stop in there, and I was very impressed with not just how the mobilization occurred, but the cooperation within the towns. What people couldn't see was we had a email chain that was going on, that was going between OEM, our OEM, which is the sheriff and his staff, and each one of the municipalities. So every time the municipalities had some more information, it was shared with everybody. So it was really a great mobilization. I want to thank Greg, and I hope you're planning on thanking individually everybody who was involved in that.
Yes.
Also, I don't want to steal Carl's thunder, but what the heck, I'm going to steal Carl's thunder. There were 67 trucks that were available for plowing, and how many were plowing? 67. That sounds like I feel like I'm talking over the Girl Scout leaders here. It sounds like an interesting feat, but keeping 67 trucks on the road, that their primary duty is to scratch along the ground and shoot salt all over the place, is not an easy task. So I also want to thank the motor pool, John Bazowicz and his staff for everything that he did. Pretty much that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Deputy Director Patel.
I would like to say that the Human Resources Forum that we had planned was, as we know, postponed, and it will be on 3/29, March 29. I also attended a meeting for the Sussex County Day, and that'll be September 16th this year, so they have a lot of great things planned for that. But I would also like to thank the Sheriff, OEM, our staff, all of our emergency, our DPW, and they were absolutely amazing. I was up there as well, and I had the opportunity to meet, I actually had a representative there from JCP&L that was stationed there. I don't know if they had that during Sandy, I don't think so. But she was excellent. I mean, she was there to work on all the infrastructure problems that were there, and to help communication between JCP&L and the Emergency Center. And I was talking to her about we were in one storm, but I was talking about her about the case of another storm coming up, and she turned to me and she goes, "I can't do that right now, I'm just way too overwhelmed." Well, she's overwhelmed, we're all overwhelmed. And I know our dispatchers were there, they couldn't get up out of their seats because of the amount of calls coming in. And you know, we don't really realize how much they do in the midst of these type of things, because we're dealing with our own issues at home. But they are really the covering and the protection. They're our communication, and they did a tremendous job. And I want to also thank Greg that was up there as well. I'm sure he was exhausted getting all that information and keeping us informed as we went on. So I'm really happy that you have your big folder and everyone's going to get a thank you letter.
Really,
Couple things. They attended the chamber breakfast, and they had the business to business, and there were 90 businesses that joined, which I thought was good. They had an economic meeting this morning up at the college. Hal Wirtz was speaking at that, talking about the new governor and the economic conditions and the impact of the increase in the minimum wage may have on small businesses. During the storm, I have this I'd like to give this to all of the freeholders. It's an email I got from a resident, and I thought all of you had gotten this from a Bill DeBoer.
Mr. DeBoer is here this evening.
He is. Are you here?
Yeah.
So I read his email, and boy, I think it hit the nail on the head. And he says a couple things in here. Losing power is something that all consumers basically must endure, especially in the aftermath of significant weather event. Okay. And then we're all aware of that. And then he talked about the company not appear to have a properly managed information. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think that the thing that he put into words, all of the phone calls I was getting, I was just about a week without power. And I sympathize with all the people that were on generators, because I was on one. And this was much different than the 2 weeks I was out with Sandy. This, you had to have that generator running all night long because you're worried about the pipes freezing. and things freezing. And the most frustrating part about this was being told, don't worry about it, your electric's going to be on at 6:30. And then having that's the recording. Then having a live person say, oh, it's going to be 6:30 on a Monday. And then it doesn't happen, and then you call again, well, it'll be Wednesday, and on and on and on. And the communication from JCP&L was horrendous. I know that they had some overwhelming things happen with trees falling, lines being, transformers going, lines down, telephone poles down, and a monumental job. But they did a very poor, I would say very, very poor job of communicating to the residents. I was one, and to have my neighbors call me and say, well, I was told that the electric's coming. It became a joke because they were told, oh, it's going to be on at the end of this day, it's going to be on, and everybody got different answers. It was a horrible, not well organized, and I'm not talking about the county. I'm talking about JCP&L, the way they communicated with the public, and I will be more than happy to, if I have to go to a BPU meeting to testify, I would like to see that we somehow work with them, so in the event that something happens, they're at the OEM, I don't know if we can force it, they're with their communication officer, and just somebody has to verify the information. They just were not prepared for the communication part of what was happening. And the linemen were out there working very hard, trying to get the lines up. But the way they communicated was just not very good. I did manage Saturday to get up to the OEM, and I visited a couple other times. When I say Georgia, our group up there did an outstanding job, and the staff there and the communications, and the ability to get things done when they had to be done. So I'm not going to say much more about that. I just want to say I've also been approached by Dave Pearson, who works for Catholic Charities, and he has works with a veterans program. And okay, I don't see senior services here, but so I'm going to direct this to social services or senior services. But Dave Pearson is the Assistant Director of Veteran Services, Supportive Services for Veterans, and works with Catholic and Family Community Service. I'm not familiar, are you familiar with him? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so he has a program that he would like to institute. I'm going to forward that to Carol.
Yeah, Carol.
All right, and because he keeps emailing me, and I'm not the person he should be. I mean, I'm more than happy to take the emails, but I think to move it forward, what he wants to do, Carol's the person. So
it'll be Carol and Lorraine Hens.
And Lorraine Hens, yeah. No, that's it.
Actually, and the administrator.
Oh, and the administrator. Your turn.
Is that all?
I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Yardley. Freeholders Lozano.
Well, Mr. Gray was correct. This was our largest storm. We had 67 trucks out, 85 employees involved. The storm cost us roughly $166,000. So far this season, we've spent $1,553,000 to keep the roads clean, clear, and open throughout the storm. I must say that our road department was absolutely outstanding during this storm. They were out there constantly, and if you've been around the county and know all the nooks and crannies and roads that are all over the place that are not straight runs to get cleaned off, I haven't had an understanding of the difficulty that they have in keeping these roads open and clear, and they did an outstanding job, and they were out there on top of this from the beginning. As far as the power company goes, you may have seen an ad in the paper today that they put out, which is corrective. Some of the problems with the power company relate to administration and the administration of the crisis event, and apparently, and I haven't been around long enough to know this, this was the largest restoration effort in the company's history. I can't validate that as being true or false or not. But the workers that came up here, some from Louisiana who didn't know what snow was, they came from as far away as Louisiana, Michigan, Kansas, all over the country. 6,200 line workers responded to this thing with forestry crews, dispatchers, electrical contractors. They built a city at the fairgrounds with, I went over to see it, with tents and a kitchen, showers, sleeping trailers. It was kind of an amazing city that they had built there. And everybody went off in the morning with their lunch in hand, and they scattered around the road. And a lot of people don't realize that the people from Louisiana don't know where Kabuki Road is. And there's no way they're ever going to find it. So you saw trucks driving around in circles. They were looking for the address to which they were sent. They didn't know where they were going. 50 miles of wire and cable, 750 poles down that they had to replace in more than 23,000 locations. So it was quite a challenge, and I think it got ahead of them, and they weren't prepared for that when it got ahead of them, and it was playing catch up, and then the second storm came in behind it and knocked it down again. I was out for 8 hours. I had to keep my generator running 24/7 because my wife needs oxygen, especially at night. So I couldn't turn it off at night and go quietly away. So, you know, it's pumping gas in there, and you realize how cheap electricity is when you start paying for gas to run a generator. It gets kind of expensive. But in any event, the people in Sussex County came together for this storm and did what they had to do. We live in the country. The solution is not cut down all the trees. The solution is to better our infrastructure, maybe do more underground work. There are other things that can be done, and those things will be discussed and should be discussed with the administration of the power company as the future goes on. So enough for the storm. It's almost over. We got a couple more snowstorms, and spring will be here. I have that on good information.
Guaranteeing
It's going to come. I guarantee it. So don't you worry about it. It'll be here. And the groundhog agreed we were going to get 6 more weeks, even though you didn't want to listen to him. I was at NJTPA. Several things going on with the North Jersey Transportation Authority. We got $3.3 million federal funds. These are federal funds that came to the county to offset the cost of a $4.8 million bridge in Lafayette. This is a great help to us. That means we can divert some funds from that bridge to other bridges. One of the biggest things that happened in NJTPA, which you may or may not find interesting, is Plan 2045. I probably won't be here when this goes into place in 2045, but this is the plan for what's going to happen between now and 2045. This is the only copy that I have. If anyone is interested and wants to read this or look at it, I will gladly loan it to you, but ask you to please get it back to me. I'm trying to get other copies of it. I just got it this week. I haven't read it yet. The binder hasn't even been cracked. So if anyone's interested in it, I'll gladly loan it to you. This was a program that was put together by the North Jersey Transportation and Planning Authority over the last couple years, with meetings in every community throughout the northwestern and northern part of the state to determine what direction and what we anticipated was going to be happening in the future in transportation in this sector. Some of it's amazing, some of it's very futuristic, self-driven vehicles. Those things that we see now on television will be realities by then. So that's something for all you younger people to look forward to. We're in the process of doing budgets for tech in the college. They'll be coming out soon. 911 Center was performed marvelously during the storm, and when local communities with their own centers went down, 911 Center was able to pick up the slack on those communities and maintain the communication and the infrastructure without a blip, and that's amazing that they could grab that and do it. I think Vernon was one of them that went down, and we were right there to be able to pick that up and keep them in place so that they didn't lose any contact or coverage. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dancis, this is your last meeting?
That is correct, sir.
He's leaving us to go to South Jersey. We wish you well. We're going to miss you. We've enjoyed having you here covering us. And I know that you're going to get homesick and come back. We'll look forward to meeting you, seeing you again, and we hope everything goes well with you. I've been on an austerity program, saving money every day, and I'm not getting my hair cut. You may have noticed my curly locks and waves. You may have noticed Jonathan's curly locks and waves.
Herb's is getting a
Wait a
little,
minute, wait.
Herb never will have curly locks and waves. His time has passed. We will be getting our heads shaved on Saturday for the St. Baldrick's event for children with cancer and disabilities. So we elected to let it grow. You know, this brings me back to my old days because these waves are coming back now. They always hadn't come back. So the next time you see us, we will be wearing hats or something. I don't know what I'd look like bald. I've never had that experience, but that's why we have not been getting our hairs cut. And if you want to come and if you want to donate to our cause to help the children with cancer, we're happy to have you jump on the bandwagon and join us. It'll be a fun day, and it's going to go on Saturday up to, what is it, 3 o'clock?
We will be getting our heads shaved between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. at Sussex Fire Department at their annual St. Patrick's dinner. But there is head shaving going on the whole day from 10 o'clock till about 3 o'clock.
Hair everywhere. It'll be that late, huh? I don't know if I want Sylvia on my head with a razor.
I never did it before, so who knows what it'll look like when I'm done.
Anyway, that's the story, and that's all I have, Mr. Director. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would like to send a thank you both to the sheriff, members of the OEM, the JCP&L line crews, and all our employees for helping out during those storms. I know it was very difficult. Not only did they have issues on the home front, but they had issues, all over the county, and really stepped up. As Mr. Lazaro said, Mr. Yardley, Mr. Lazaro, and myself will be getting our heads shaved on Saturday night to benefit the St. Baldrick's Foundation. If you would like to donate, we're running a little competition to see who can get the most money donated. You can go to stbaldricks, BALDRICKS.org. And at the top there's a search. You can search for Herb Yardley, Carl Lazaro, you gotta spell it right though, and Jonathan Rose. And you can donate to the cause. And I'd like to thank Freeholders Graham and Patillo, who will be doing the shearing. So we will be the shorn and they will be the shearers. So thank you for doing that. Hope to see you Saturday night, or at least hope to see some donations from all of you. Last year, the fire department raised I think just less than $20,000, and they're looking to do more than $30,000 this year, and they're well on their way to doing that. And does all benefit St. Baldrick's, which is a research organization that helps children with cancer. Thank you. We have approval of the consent agenda. The Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Sussex has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions and determined that adoption of the said resolutions is in and will further the public interest. If any freeholder would like to remove an agenda item to be considered separately, please do so now. Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Patillo, second by Grant. Any discussion? Mr. Koff, can you just go over these?
Yes, the first resolution is an award for surveying services concerning the Mulvaney Farm and Stevens Vernon Valley Farm that are part of the county's farmland preservation program. The second resolution authorizes the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Continuum Voice and Data Systems for the annual maintenance and support services of the county's on-base document and record management system.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley.
Yes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 28, 2018.
So moved.
Motion by Lazaro,
Second.
second by Patillo. Discussion. All those in favor?
Excuse me, Freeholder Graham is not eligible to vote for the 20. Oh, okay. I just wanted to put on the record.
In that case, we will do a roll call,
For the
please.
record, I said.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Abstain.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley.
Yes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting held on February 16, 2018.
Motion.
Motion by Graham, second by Lazaro. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the executive session held on February 14, 2018, and the executive session held on February 16, 2018?
Motion.
Motion by Graham,
Second.
second by Patillo. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Please review resolutions A through E. After reviewing, please make a motion to approve resolutions A through E.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Yardley,
Second.
second by Graham. Discussion. Mr. Pop, can you pull these?
Yes, the first concerns the county's compliance with the EEOC enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records and employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is a new requirement that the state has implemented, which requires the freeholders to certify that in fact the county complies with these federal civil rights requirements. Specifically, the Commission on Civil Rights identifies the fact that an arrest does not establish criminal conduct that has occurred for those that have been arrested. Convictions are not considered reliable evidence that underlying criminal conduct has occurred. National data supports the finding that criminal records exclude a disparate impact, particularly as it concerns race and national origin, and that the practice of everyone with a criminal record is excluded from employment is inconsistent with the EEOC's position. So that is what the freeholders would certify to with the adoption of this resolution. Again, it is now a requirement of the state prior to the adoption of local government's budget. The next resolution is for the purchase of development easement, consistent with the recommendation of the Agricultural Development Board for the development rights on the Stevens-Vernon Valley Farm, which was part of the 2016 county easement funding round. The next resolution reaffirms the Board of Chosen Freeholders' support for the creation of the Western Highlands Scenic Byway, which runs along County Route 515 in Hardiston and Vernon, as well as New Jersey Route 94 in Vernon. The next resolution is for the Cavalier Environmental Compliance Services. Has an existing solid waste facility located in Sparta Township. The existing DEP permit provides for intake and processing of type 13C solid waste materials, which is construction and demolition debris, up to 400 tons per day. The administrative action proposed is for the addition of Class A recycling materials, which would include cardboard and paper, to be processed at the existing facility with no increase in permitted tons per day. The next resolution provides for the temporary closure of County Route 661 in Lafayette Township for the purposes of the PTO's annual 5K Tiger Chase and 10K running race.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. Introduction for first reading ordinance. Ordinance regarding amending speed limits established along County Route 517 under resolution entitled, quote, establishing speed limits on Route 517 in the borough of Andover and the townships of Andover and Sparta, end quote, dated October 11th, 1977. Could I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading?
Motion.
Motion by Graham,
Second.
Second by Patil. Discussion.
Yes, this request has been reviewed by the county engineer, and based upon the request and the county engineer's review, it is recommended that the county engineer be authorized to implement the revised school zone speed limit of 20 miles per hour, including the posting of signage in substantial conformance with the current MUTCD standards, and would also provide for the enforcement of the revised school zone speed limit. And this is in and around Reverend Brown School and Pope John High School. Again, this would allow for the reduction of the speed limit consistent with the recommendations of the county engineer.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yurley.
Yes.
I have a motion to authorize the clerk to advertise this ordinance as introduced for first reading and also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with a notice of public hearing stating that a hearing will be held on March 28, 2018 at 7:00 p.m. prior to final adoption of this ordinance.
So moved.
Motion by Lazar. Second by Graham. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Awards of contract change orders bid. Please review award of contracts A1 through A5. I have a motion to approve award of contracts A1 through A5. Motion by Graham.
Second.
Second by Lazar. Discussion. Mr. Paul?
Yes, the first resolution is a contract extension for various roofing and waterproofing materials that are used throughout our facilities division across a number of the county-owned buildings. Resolution number 2, likewise, is a contract extension for plumbing services that the county uses across its various facilities. Resolution number 3 allows for the the purchase of computer software and equipment for the emergency capable call taking system for the county of Sussex. The fourth resolution allows for the assignment of contract that we currently have for VisiGrip pavement markings that is used through the Office of Bridge and Traffic Safety. Number 5 is also an assignment of contract for the security system integrator from MS Electronics to ATD US Holdings, which is an existing contract that is used for the security systems across the county.
Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yurley.
Yes.
Financial A, resolution regarding payments of bills. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
Motion to pay the bills.
Motion by Graham, second by Lazaro. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Abstain.
Freeholder Yurley.
Yes.
B, resolution regarding payment of bills. Can I have a motion to pay the bills?
Motion to bills.
Motion by Graham,
Second.
second by Patillo. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder Yurley.
Yes.
Resolution regarding authorizing a cap to limit county budget appropriation increase in calendar year 2018 county budget to 3.5% over previous year's final appropriations, subject to certain exceptions, and to establish an appropriation cap bank. Motion to authorize the clerk to advertise this resolution as introduced for first reading and adopted by the Board of Chosen Freeholders on February 28, 2018, and will also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with a notice of public hearing stating the hearing will be held on March 28, 2018 at 7:00 p.m. prior to final adoption of this resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lazaro,
I'll second.
second by Arlen. Discussion?
Just a question, this will be explained at that time to the public.
I can explain it now.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
This is a resolution that is regularly considered by the Board of Chosen Freeholders along with other municipal governments. As a result of changes in state budget law, what previously was provided for as automatic cap banking is no longer automatic and requires local governments to adopt this resolution that allows not only an increase for the budget appropriations to be able to increase up to 3.5%, which the county does not need this year based upon the budget that will be considered shortly for introduction by the board, but it does allow the county to be able to take advantage then of the additional monies that are not needed in excess of what the county limitations are, and to be able to bank that for subsequent years to be able to address any unexpected issues or emergencies that might come up, which would require the county to use said cap bank.
Mr. Pop, can you just go over what a cap bank is? So if the budget were to be raised, say 1% a year, how that interplays with the cap bank?
Essentially, the state establishes what a cost of living adjustment would be and limits by statute how much the county can increase its budget. What then will happen is if the county had some unforeseen emergency or expenditure that would then pierce that threshold as established by statute, if the county has accumulated cap bank from prior years, that bank could then be applied to any appropriations that would exceed the current year's cap bank from taking advantage of funds that effectively would have been set aside from prior years where such threshold had not been pierced.
So up to this 3.5%.
That's correct.
So just to be
over 3 years, right?
Currently, yes, that's the statute provides for cap banking up to 3 years.
And just to be clear, it doesn't require increasing the budget any amount. It just provides for the banking of that cap in case there's an emergency in a future year.
It would allow you to exceed what the otherwise statutory permissible limit would be, and any funds that the county would not use, and again, in this case, the county would not be seeking to increase up to the 3.5%. That difference then will in fact be set aside as the county's cap bank in subsequent budget years.
In case of emergency.
Correct.
I have a question. For example, tell me if this is correct. During, I believe it was either during Sandy or maybe right after that, there was a huge explosion of mosquitoes. The county needed an extra 100,000. They took that, they had an emergency appropriation. So in this case, if we have that money banked, we would not have to do an emergency appropriation. We would have the funding. Is that
They're actually different,
two different things?
There's different provisions under statute.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I was just trying to explain that financially so that people would. Does everyone I'm not sure everybody understands this.
I would not necessarily expect everyone to understand. This is part of the state's budget law. The consideration and subsequent adoption of this resolution, simply stated, allows the county the greatest flexibility in order to be able to deliver a budget within the statutory requirements as established by the state of New Jersey.
What essentially my understanding has been is that, let's say over 3 years, you have a 2% over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you commit 1%, 1%, 1%. You have 3% that you bank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that 3%. So that the following year, if you have an emergency, like let's say you have to exceed your 2%, then you have up to 3% available to you for that particular year.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham?
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro?
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
Please, Freehold Board, please review resolutions D, E, and F. And when ready, please make a motion to approve resolutions D, E, and F.
I move them jointly.
Motion by Lazaro.
I'll second.
Second by Graham. Discussion. Mr. Crum?
Yes, I would just say that the resolutions being considered this evening, in fact, will allow for the county's Farmland Preservation, Recreation, and Open Space Trust Fund levy, which there is no call for an increase. The rate to be assessed in 2018 is .00232724 per $100 of assessed value, which is estimated to provide a total levy of $395,000, which is the same levy as 2017. Consideration of the approval of the 2018 library budget and certification of the 2018 library tax levy. In fact, there is a proposed increase in the amount to be raised for the library budget of $386,607, which represents a $6 increase for the average residential property tax in the county, taking it from $81 in 2017 to $87 in 2018. The good news in regards to this increase, unlike some other increases, there actually will be an increase in service from the libraries, including an additional evening open at each one of the branches, and providing other service enhancements as recommended by the library director and considered by the budget subcommittee. And last but not least is the approval of the 2018 budget of the Division of Social Services. And this is a resolution that is required, as ultimately the Division of Social Services budget will be reviewed and ultimately approved by the state of New Jersey.
Further discussion? We do have Mr. Porter here, the head of the library. If the Freeholder board would like to have a word from him regarding the improved services that this budget will provide.
Sure.
If the Freeholder board so chooses.
Yes, absolutely.
Porter? Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's all right. I'll keep my comments brief, but this is precisely why I wanted to get to this, in case there are any questions. Like Mr. Pop said, we put together this, the proposed budget for this year, worked through the process with the budget committee in order to sort of get back to the established service levels of service that we've had in prior years.
If I may just interject, occasionally the budget, the services were cut significantly in the 2008 timeframe due to budget constraints.
Yeah, periodically between 2008 and 2011 and various other years in between, there have been a series of cuts to budgets and services, including most substantially in 2011 to the hours of operation of most of our facilities.
And you noted that you're actually seeing increased traffic in the libraries in the county, and you came up with a 3-year plan on the budget committee to address, to bring back some of those services that were cut.
That's correct. In the interest of phasing in the changes so that we're not creating a substantial shock to the budget at any particular time. The idea was to craft a plan to get back to those established levels of service pre-2011 and phase that in over about a 3-year period. So the initial phase for this year would be planned to reestablish Saturday hours at all of our locations and to reopen the branches that are open in the evenings in the mornings of those days that they're open, and to expand the operation of the main library from 3 evenings a week to 4, which is again where it was before.
And then proposed for 2019?
Would be to add a second evening of operation, again, reestablishing pre-2011 levels of service at every branch already.
And then 2020?
2020 sort of levels off after that and settles into, I believe the projection was to increase the materials budget a little bit and settle into the, like I said, the pre-2011 hours of operation.
Thank you. Any further comments from?
I have visited all the libraries in the last few weeks, and I got to tell you, I don't know how you judge the numbers, but I have seen definitely increased usage particularly Frankfurt. Frankfurt's, the parking lot seems full all the time. I don't know, giving away free candy or something. But you're definitely having more people using the services.
One of the discussions the budget subcommittee did have with Mr. Porter was adding counters to the doors, and I believe that is included in the proposal for the budget.
Yeah, that's in the plans for this year.
And then, so we'll actually, the board will be able to get, and the library department will be able to get concrete, verifiable numbers on traffic.
As sort of the paradigm of public library usage shifts more to sort of experience-based than to sort of counting the numbers of books people check out. That's a really key metric to have a sense of who's coming in, who's coming out, and when, and how much the population is using the given site in the system.
So you'll be able to get both. You'll be able to look at both the checkouts and get data from that metric, and also the foot traffic.
Absolutely.
Any further comments from the board?
One other thing too, the digital is getting better too. I don't know if you use your system. I was away and I was up, couldn't sleep, and I went on. I was in Virginia, and I was able to download a book and got a chance to read that book. Thank you.
Terrific. I'm glad to hear it. That's exactly how that's supposed to work.
Exactly how it works.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham?
Yes.
Freeholder Lazara?
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose?
Yes.
Freeholder Yardley?
Yes.
Introduction of 2018 county budget for first reading. The 2018 Sussex County budget is being introduced for first reading at this time and awaits approval by the board. The 2018 Sussex County budget revenues and appropriations summary will be advertised in the New Jersey Herald issue of March 21st, 2018. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution regarding approval of the 2018 county budget as presented for a vote?
So moved.
Motion by Lazar.
Second.
Second by Patillo. Discussion. Mr. Pop, this time?
Yeah, I have a presentation. If I could just ask Freeholder Yardley to take one and pass it down. Rob, if I could ask you if you wouldn't mind just passing these out while I try to log in here to our system.
Well, lights out good?
No, I don't want to put anybody to sleep. It's going to be,
You can
it's going to be rough
if
and
they're
rough.
on.
Just one thing.
Thank you, sir.
You want me to take it? How are you with this? Probably better than me. I'm just going to use the virtual.
Did you press
Yeah.
control?
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
It's a good long password. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I change it every day.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
I know everybody's got a hard copy, so I'm not sure.
I feel very welcome right now.
Yeah.
I don't think the meeting
Well, yeah, and it would be Hoboken, pretty much.
All right, so thank you for your patience there. This evening, I would like to present to the Board of Chosen Freeholders as well as the public the county's 2018 current fund budget. And if those members from the public that are in attendance were hoping for a repeat performance similar to what Governor Murphy expressed yesterday, and the billions of dollars that will be raised in taxes, I hate to inform you, you're going to be sorely disappointed. That is not this presentation. So I'll leave that collection of taxes for the governor and show something much, no marijuana, and something much more reasonable in expectation of what the Board of Chosen Freeholders as well as the residents of Sussex County have come to expect. So with that, the change in the proposed change in the county tax rate represents a $17 increase per average Sussex County home. That is how the budget has been crafted in accordance with work from the administration, our Treasury Division, along with the Budget Subcommittee. The 2018 County Current Fund budget calls for a rate increase of 0.0072. The decision to increase taxes is carefully considered in context of the county's long-term fiscal integrity, along with the expectations that are established by the Board of Chosen Freeholders and the expectations that residents have relative to levels of service provided by county government. This year's budget maintains a prudent level of surplus so as to avoid potential spikes in future tax rates, though as you will see later on in the presentation, as we did recognize an increase in the level of our fund balance, we also are calling for a greater proportionate share of use of that surplus or fund balance in our budget to offset county taxes. I'd like to give everyone just a brief overview of what the county budget process is, because many people do not realize that it is from beginning to end about an 8-month process that begins in August of the prior year, where the finance director issues guidance to all the county entities to prepare their budget documents. The county entities are then provided approximately 4 to 5 weeks to prepare and submit their budget proposals to the finance department. In October then, the budget subcommittee meets with the county entities to review budget submissions, and those budget submissions or those presentations actually take the better part of about 5 weeks to go through.
If I could just pause you there, at that time, if everything was fulfilled as requested, you would be looking at about an 8 to 10% tax increase.
Oh, without a doubt. There was more than $4 million worth of requested expenditures that were removed from what the various entities and departments within the county had sought, yes. So then going into November, the Capital Projects Subcommittee meets with the various county entities to review the capital project requests. And again, given the size of our capital improvement program, the amount that's requested is easily 4 to 5 times what ultimately is considered for funding by the Freeholder Board. In December then, the Budget Subcommittee meets to review what the impact of the draft county budget will be and provides my office and Treasury with greater direction as to how to continue to prepare and identify the priorities that are to be funded in the budget that ultimately is presented to the public and considered by the Board of Chosen Freeholders. Again, then, within about a month's time, in January of this year, the Budget Subcommittee and Capital Projects Subcommittee both met individually to finalize the draft county budget. And then in February, the Board of Chosen Freeholders had met to consider the county budget as recommended by the Budget Subcommittee and Capital Projects Subcommittee. And now this evening, the Board of Chosen Freeholders will consider the introduction and approval of the budget. And in accordance with state budget law, a public hearing and adoption of the current fund budget will be considered at the April 11th meeting. There are several laws that affect the preparation of the county budget, and we spoke about some of that earlier this evening. The 1977 cap law prohibits counties from increasing the property tax levy by more than 2.5% unless action is taken by the governing body to increase the property tax levy. The 2010 property tax levy cap law establishes a formula that limits the increase in the county amount to be raised by taxation to 2% of the previous year's amount to be raised by taxation. And then most recently, the 2017 county entity budget cap limits the annual increase in the portion of certain county entities' budgets requested funding from the county property tax levy. That includes specifically the county clerk, the county surrogate, and the county sheriff. So the county current fund budget as drafted proposes total revenues of $109,661,855. And those revenues are seen across several different categories, including fund balance, miscellaneous revenues, state aid, offset with appropriations, and the county purpose tax. As we look at fund balance in this budget is $865,648, or 5% of the total revenues. And you see listed on the screen there a number of the miscellaneous revenues that are comprise the category known as miscellaneous revenues. The most significant ones include the county clerk fees as well as the surrogate fees. The state aid component comprises of franchise tax on life insurance companies, as well as state aid that is received on county college bonds. And the state aid comprises $1,573,906, or just 1%. And so to talk a little bit more about fund balance. The county's fund balance as of December 31st, 2017 was $15.89 million. Fund balance is generated by the lapsing of previous year budget reserves, collecting revenues in excess of anticipated amounts, and miscellaneous revenues not anticipated. Revenues that are collected in excess of anticipated amounts, as I mentioned earlier, are reflected in miscellaneous revenues, and for 2017, we realized greater amounts in county clerk fees, the county sheriff fees, and also interest on investments and deposits. $5.87 million of fund balance is anticipated to support the 2018 budget. And the next chart demonstrates that. It shows a history of our fund balance and also the use as anticipated revenues. The bars reflect the amount in millions of dollars, what the county's fund balance history is, and the line superimposed on that chart, also in millions, shows the amount of fund balance used in each year's budget to support the current fund budget. And so you can see the line tends to trend with what the fund balance is, in that in 2008, we had a fund balance of $18.03 million in terms of our fund balance, seeing then over the course of the next 3 years a decline in the amount of fund balance, and that's directly related to the fact that approximately equal amounts of fund balance were used in those years, which then subsequently caused a dip in that fund balance. As the fund balance declined, the amount that was used to support the budget was likewise reduced. And as we're starting to see some upward movement in terms of the fund balance that the county recognizes at the close of the year, it was decided to take almost 10% more to support the 2018 budget, which is why you see the uptick in the yellow line as shown on that graph. So whereas last year we used approximately $5.34 million, this year's budget calls for $5.87 million use in fund balance. So appropriations. Appropriations are the platform that support the county services, and significant dollar increases are seen in the following appropriations: group health insurance, total salaries and wages, and the maintenance of patients in state psychiatric institutions. The chart that you see below gives the comparison between 2017 and 2018 in terms of those three particular appropriations where the county saw the greatest increase. And you will note that the total increase of those three appropriations is $2.4 million. The amount that is to be increased, the increase in the amount to be raised in taxation in this year's budget is only $1.9 million. So you can see that the three highest appropriations or increases in appropriations had to be offset through other changes in the county budget, which includes having reduced funding for capital projects, and also some of our debt service amounts were reduced as well in order to come in, have the budget come within the parameters as established by the budget subcommittee. Something that all employers deal with, and the county is certainly no exception, are group health insurance costs. It was anticipated as we were preparing the 2018 budget that the increase for health and prescription benefits would increase over $3 million from last year. We were able to see that amount reduced to $1.8 million through the work of the county's insurance broker, renegotiating with our health and prescription benefit providers. And as we continue to move forward, and had been previously reported in last year's budget presentation, the administration continues to work with the county's labor unions to identify cost-saving strategies that will benefit not only the county, but also the employees themselves. The next chart shows you the trend in group health insurance costs, and keeping in mind that it covers both active employees, which are represented in the blue bars, and then also retirees, which are in the red bars. And you can see the trend going up for both active and retired employees. So now we get to appropriations. Total appropriations equal $109,661,855, again, across a number of categories, and those categories we'll talk about right now. The first being general government. General government represents a variety of services, including administration, employee services, engineering services, and comprise $7.9 million of the total appropriations. What I've tried to do with this year's budget is to add a human component and try to get people to understand what those costs in fact represent. And you might be scratching your head going, geez, that looks like a lot of public works, which is covered later in the budget. But all of the work that you see in these particular pictures are supported by our engineering division that prepares specifications for our county roads, the stormwater system, the bridges. That happens to be a bridge that was constructed in Byram Township this past year on Roseville Road, and then also the paving of many miles, and in fact I believe this year will be more than 35 miles worth of road that will be resurfaced throughout the county. So all of those capital projects that either are implemented through contractors or the county's Public Works Department are supported through the general government function in our engineering department. The next, which we've touched upon, is insurance. And the insurance component is just over $20 million. And that includes the group health insurance, as well as the county's liability and property insurance, as well as unemployment insurance. I'm pleased to say that through a solicitation that was done through my office, that the county recognized more than $200,000 worth of savings in its commercial and liability and property insurance. Of course, that was more than offset by the significant increase in group health insurance. Excuse me. The next appropriation is public safety. Public safety represents about 20% of the total county budget, and those appropriations total $22,734,572. That includes the sheriff's office, which provides security to the judicial center, the jail, the prosecutor's office, the fire marshal's office. And again, just to put a face with what is covered in our public safety, you see in the top slide the sheriff along with the K-9 unit. In the bottom right-hand corner is the sheriff's officers that are engaged in active shooter training with a variety of community and church groups. And then wanted to have a picture that was taken just last week in the county's Emergency Operations Center, which provides coordination of all of the emergency efforts that are done at the local level through the county's Emergency Operations Center. We then have Public Works, and we touched upon that, which totals just over $10 million, almost $11 million. Public Works includes roads, the Office of Bridge and Traffic Safety, as well as the Division of Mosquito Control. Again, these will be pictures that will be familiar to people with our road crews out replacing signs. That's done through the Division of Bridge and Traffic Safety. Snow plowing, which has been a rather familiar sight for those of you who've been out on county roads. And then also I wanted to tease everybody with a picture of spring with our Parks and Forestry and Tree Division out trimming back trees.
They were trimming back trees last week.
They sure were.
Just didn't have any leaves on them.
No, that's right. That's right. The next is our health and welfare group, which totals $4,869,041. Again, that provides for a lot of our social service programs that cover a variety of different groups within the county, both providing for environmental services, environmental health services, public nursing services, and our social services, as well as our community and youth programs. and wanted to share that. We saw in the bottom left-hand corner some of our law enforcement. And if you look closely, you'll see our own Carol Novrit there in the food pantry after, I think, cramming the cruiser, putting food on the shelves. Repair of our transit bus. As you all know, and we had just a few meetings ago, rather robust presentation of our transit group that provides service to those who have mobility issues and need to get around the county. And then highlight for our transit group are the safety awards that are presented at the fair on an annual basis, and those are our staff members who drive for transit in that picture there. The next is support for educational institutions, which includes the County College and VOTEC, and that totals $11,550,494. And the county is required to provide resources to those institutions in support of their educational efforts. We have utilities and other and unclassified services. This covers a variety of different expenses, including natural gas, diesel, heating fuel. And those appropriations total $3,507,927. The next component piece of our appropriations is entitled Offset by Revenue, which is $4,159,308. This appropriation, in fact, represents the grants that the county receives for a whole variety of programs. This number in and of itself, in fact, is tax neutral, as there is a revenue entitled Offset by appropriations, which we saw in the earlier slide. And then last is the category that is called Other Than Operations, which totaled $23,994,560. And that, in fact, represents the general fund appropriation for the capital improvement program, as well as our statutory expenditures, which includes pensions that are due for the public employees, along with our county debt service. And so those are the component pieces of the appropriations of the county budget. So the appropriations that were made to advance county priorities. A portion of the funds that were requested have been appropriated to increase the amount of long lines painted on county roads, which in fact is a safety issue and is managed out of our engineering department. Monies have been made available for professional services associated with the accreditation of the Division of Health, which the Division of Health has been working diligently towards and will be continuing that process, seeking accreditation of that unit. Additional funds were required by the state to fund patient maintenance at state psychiatric institutions, and that was, from what we saw on the appropriation slide, one of the significant increases in the 2018 current fund budget. That is a requirement of counties to pay the bill as levied by the state of New Jersey for the maintenance of patients in state institutions. Funds.
Could you comment on why that jumped so much?
It's based upon the state's assessment of those individuals that are within state psychiatric facilities, and then the apportionment is sent out to each one of the counties. It's something that is part of why each county has an adjuster who is responsible for reconciling those costs for those that are under the mandated care of the county that have been committed to state institutions. Funds have been appropriated for the Fire Academy for preventive maintenance and repair of that facility. That facility is under the control of the County Community College, and receives a tremendous amount of use, not only from our volunteer firefighters throughout the county, but is also used as a meeting place for a variety of public safety and other county operations. So monies are being made available to ensure that that facility is in good condition and repair so that it can continue to support the mission of training our emergency responders, as well as providing another place for the county to be able to host events. And that monies have been made available through discussions by the board here for a membership to the Economic Development Partnership. So of course we talked earlier about the fact that the number of requests that come in from the various county entities considerably exceeds what the county will ultimately fund in order to maintain a responsible budget. And so a number of the items that were deferred in order to meet the parameters as established by the Budget Subcommittee include, there were more monies that had been requested to fund the Long Line program, but those monies that were not otherwise appropriated have been deferred into subsequent years. Additional funds that had been contemplated to increase staffing at the Communications Center have been deferred, as we currently have capacity within the existing staffing levels at the Communications Center, and that the Community College and Technical School had requested additional funding to increase programming at those institutions, but it was decided that we would keep the funding for those institutions level in the 2018 budget. We touched upon the capital improvement program, and the capital improvement program is a very important part of the county's overall financial management, which encompasses the preparation, adoption, and implementation of a budget for major capital projects or acquisitions, and the funding of those capital projects and acquisitions through a combination of both current funds and debt financing. And the board later this evening will consider a bond ordinance that ultimately would authorize for the borrowing of money in order to be able to meet the capital improvement program needs as established in the capital project subcommittee and is recommended to the board for its consideration. This year, capital expenditures are those items that are more than $25,000 and have a useful life greater than 5 years. And there's a whole schedule established in state bond law that establishes the useful life for a whole variety of assets that governments use. The 2018 capital program totals $10,308,250, with new debt authorized not to exceed $9,904,000. And certainly, as the board is aware, but I should let the public know, that the Board of Chosen Freeholders has implemented a self-imposed cap that capital project authorizations in terms of new debt authorized is not to exceed $10 million. So I'm pleased to report that the capital program, as prepared, in fact, meets the Freeholders' Board's requirements. To give people a sense of the various program groups that the capital program in fact funds, you have a breakdown there across a variety of different groups where capital monies are spent, including fleet, which represents about 10% of the total capital improvement program, 24% for roads and bridges, 5% for engineering, which actually is equipment in support of both Public Works as well as the Office of Bridge and Traffic Safety. We have public safety investments that total 23% of the total program, technology of approximately 3%, in support of our educational institutions, the college and the technical school of 21%. The Board of Elections is in need of replacing its voting machine system as it's approaching its end of life. And this 4% of the total program is a partial payment for what will be installments over the next several years, so as not to incur the cost of the replacement of that system in a single year, but will be through appropriations in subsequent years. And then also lastly, investment in our facilities, which totals about 10% of the total program. So the top 10 capital projects in this year's capital improvement program are the funding for the Community Colleges University Center, our road resurfacing, deferred maintenance projects at the community college, the investment in science labs at the technical school, emergency generator funds at the jail. We are beginning the process of making investments in the public safety paging and radio system. Again, given the size of that project, this is a partial program that will allow us to begin to make improvements into the paging and radio systems that are used by the Sheriff's Office and the Emergency Communications Center. We've had a request for investment in welding facilities at the community college. We have bridge and construction repair. We have the replacement of voting machines that I touched upon before. Again, that's a partial investment that will be done over a number of years. And then the replacement of Bridge Q6 in Sparta Township. So those are the top 10 projects in the capital improvement program. So to bring this to conclusion, just to put into context what the total tax levy for the county is, in 2017 it was $95 million, and so it puts what our tax levy is in context of the other 20 counties. And you can see that that's consistent with what our net valuation taxable is, which others may be familiar as the overall taxable value of property within the county, which in fact is $16.4 billion. So again, in summary, what's been presented this evening and that the board will consider in terms of the 2018 current fund budget is that the change in the county tax rate represents a $17 increase per average Sussex County home. That's some of the summary information of the budget, the tax levy, rateable base, and tax rate over the last 3 years. And that the 2018 county current fund budget calls for a rate increase of 0.0072. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Pop.
Thank you.
Any comments from the Freeholder Board?
No, it was very, very well done. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Just want to thank all the members of the Freeholder Board who served both in the budget committee and the capital committee. This takes a long time to put these budgets together, and it's the most significant policy statement the Freeholder Board can make every year. This year, I think you people who've been around know that we've had large tax increases in 2016 and 2017, driven primarily by a combination of solar and health care costs. I believe that we may finally be out of our long, dark winter and into a more stable fiscal situation from this point moving forward. And I really want to thank both those members and Mr. Poff. The time you put in is great, and some difficult choices were made by the Freeholder Board and the administrator, and it's done, and we have come in under 2%, which I'm pleased to announce is nearly a full percentage point under the rate of inflation, which means that in real dollars the budget has actually shrunk. And given those the ballooning costs of particular health care, that's a difficult thing to do, and thank you for everyone who put work in on that and made that a reality. Any further comments? We have a motion and second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder York.
Yes.
I have a motion to authorize the clerk to advertise the budget revenues and appropriations summary as introduced for first reading, and also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with a notice of public hearing stating that a hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held in the Freeholder Meeting Room, County Administrative Center, 1 Spring Street, Newton, New Jersey, on Wednesday, April 11, 2018, at 7 o'clock p.m. At which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2018 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
Motion.
Motion by Graham.
Second.
Second by Lazaro. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. Introduction for first reading, bond ordinance. Bond ordinance providing for the various 2018 capital improvements by and in the county of Sussex, state of New Jersey, appropriating $8,299,000 therefore, and authorizing $7,714,000 bonds or notes to the county to refinance part of the cost thereof. Can I have a motion to introduce this bond ordinance on first reading? Motion by Graham.
Second.
Second by Lazaro. Discussion? Mr. Bob?
Just as mentioned, the Freeholder Board's consideration of this bond ordinance will allow for the implementation of the 2018 Capital Improvement Program, which will provide for various improvements to our technology, equipment, bridge improvements, roadway improvements, various improvements to county buildings and facilities, as well as the acquisition of a variety of vehicles and equipment in accordance with the bond ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. Any further discussion?
Just one comment. I'm not exactly sure of the dollar amount, but when I came on the board, I think we were, our bonding number was around 12.5 million, and it's being brought down below 10 million now. So that's a $2.5 million reduction in a 1 year's time that's been steadily moving in the right direction.
While you're discussing that, can you discuss the payoffs and there is a delta, if I understand, that the total debt drops?
Oh, you have to.
Effectively, I think what you're saying is, or inquiring about, is the county's debt management plan and what the program is, which is managed through our finance division, who I also would like to recognize. He's sitting back there not wanting to be recognized, but our county treasurer, Rob Mikes, as well as Ruby Malcolm, who have done a tremendous job in the preparation of the budget, as well as overseeing the preparation of these bond ordinances. But effectively, there is a debt management program that, as the county goes out and has its permanent financing, as those bonds are paid off, that the county would not bring on debt greater than what has been paid off as part of the permanent financing. So effectively, what the program is to allow the county to maintain a stable amount of debt service so that you're not finding peaks and valleys as debt is being paid off and new debt brought on.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro.
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose.
Yes.
Freeholder York.
I'll abstain.
Motion to authorize the clerk to advertise this bond ordinance as introduced for first reading, and also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with notice of public hearing stating that a hearing will be held on March 28, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. prior to final adoption of this bond ordinance. Have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Graham.
Second.
Second by Lazaro. Discussion?
Question on this. This, it says, interest in aggregate principal amount which shall be entitled to state aid pursuant to Chapter 12 of the laws of the state of New Jersey.
We're not there yet, Mr. York.
Oh, that's not what we're voting on?
This is for advertising. We're going to advertise.
Oh, that's advertising the
okay.
bond ordinance.
All right.
Any further discussion? Just looking back, are we all in favor?
Yes, all in favor.
Voice vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Introduction for first reading bond ordinance. Bond ordinance providing for the undertaking of 2018 capital improvements at and for certain facilities of Sussex County Community College located within the county of Sussex, state of New Jersey, appropriating $2,800,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,800,000 bonds or notes of the county of Sussex, state of New Jersey for financing such appropriation, the principal of and interest on the aggregate principal amount of which will be entitled to state aid pursuant to Chapter 12 of the laws in New Jersey of 1971. Do I have a motion to introduce this bond ordinance on first reading?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by York.
Second.
Second by Graham. Discussion.
Do we have a number that we're going to get back from the state, or is this main project, is the building for the building project?
Rob? Yes.
Can you answer that?
The state has a 50% share in it, so it's 2.8. The state will, over the life for the debt service, whatever the debt service schedule provides for it, they will pay us $1.4 million.
Okay, thank you.
As well as the related interest.
Mr. Pop, maybe you could speak to what this is for.
Yes, as we touched upon earlier, this is for a variety of facility improvements at the college, including electrical improvements in some of the buildings. There are necessary elevator improvements. The University Center project that has been advanced by the college, as well as welding facility improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Pop. Any further discussion, Mr. Freeholder? Roll call, please.
Freeholder Graham?
Yes.
Freeholder Lazaro?
Yes.
Freeholder Patillo?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Rose?
Yes.
Freeholder York?
Yes.
Could I have a motion to authorize the clerk to advertise this bond ordinance as introduced for first reading, also post same on the bulletin board in the lobby of the County Administrative Center, together with notice of public hearing stating that a hearing will be held on March 28, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. prior to final adoption of this bond ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Lazaro, second by Graham. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. No personnel agenda. Administrative report?
As everybody's already heard enough from me this evening, I would just like to say thank you to all of the Sheriff's Department, particularly the Office of Emergency Management, along with each and every county employee that either was assigned out to the Emergency Operations Center or was of assistance in establishing some of our warming centers, and all of the other personnel that were engaged in snow and ice, as well as the debris removal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. County Council?
Nothing new.
Any unfinished business? Any new business?
I have one thing. While we were in closed session before, I was looking out the window and I was noticing that the MIA flag over the old courthouse is pretty tattered up. I've also been noticing that a number of our flags on our facilities have been somewhat weathered and probably really took a beating over the last few weeks with the heavy winds. I was just going to ask if we could have our facilities look into our flag situation and see if we can bring them up to par.
Spring mill.
Yeah, probably when the spring comes in, but not asking for it right away, but that the flag over the old courthouse though is in very slight shape.
Mr. Graham, any other new business?
Just a recommendation on that. I know that sometimes if we send a letter to our congressmen or senators, we can, the federal government, or they will send us flags that have actually been sometimes in action. I did receive one. That was when my son was in Afghanistan, but it would be nice if we could possibly get, some flags that actually were hoisted up in that way or something like that.
Mr. York, any other new business? Seeing none, can I have a motion for a public session floor? Please note, everyone is asked to keep their comments to 5 minutes or less and only address issues regarding... Everyone is asked to keep their comments to 5 minutes or less, followed by a 3-minute response time from the Freeholder Board. Please state your name, put your name and municipality on the sign-in sheet. Can I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
Second.
Motion by Patillo, second by Lazaro. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, the floor is open to the public.
Thank you. Glenn Hall, HULL, Lakewood, New Jersey. I hope you received my letter. I delivered it to the county. and I'm hoping you consider it, okay? I would like an investigation. I'd like the county to order one. I'd also like a letter written to the court regarding this situation. I don't know what else to say about it. I hope you discuss it. I hope you discuss it with all your colleagues here and go from there. I'll talk to you later about it and we'll see what happens. Regarding the storm, I come from a utility background. I had 30 years. I retired 16 years ago. And I'm going to tell you, there's several factors that brought this electric outage. You never used to see outages like this. One is divestiture. Power company was divested. The phone company was divested. Ratables were dropped because of other companies allowed to come in and use the power company's facilities, the phone company's facilities at a cheaper rate and resell the power over those utilities. That hurt the phone company, that hurt the power company. It hurt them bad. Secondly, you have a tree population that's grown in this county in the last 50 years. A tree needs a certain area to establish a root base. And now you have 70-foot trees the size of power poles with no root base. They're crowded, and all the electric outages was from trees falling. Now, if you take a telephone pole that's 50 foot, you put it in the ground 15% probably. You got to have something in the ground to hold it up. I saw trees falling over in the National Park Service and in the Sanderson Township that had a root base maybe the size of 3 chairs, 70 foot tall. I mean, that's physics. Think about it. You know, you got to have something to hold that up. It's simple math. It's got to be in the ground. And if you have trees that are unhealthy, crowded, competing with each other, no canopy for the root base to expand to, you've got a problem. And I think there needs to be a serious consideration on thinning our forests. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Well, I want to make a comment, if I could. I'm up here over 30-some years, and JCP&L used to have their own trucks. And they used to come and trim the trees. The trees were hanging on an angle. They would come and they would trim those trees or cut them down. Over the last couple of years, when you see the guys trimming the trees and you say, hey, you know, there's a branch over that, and you have a general conversation, the answer you get is we're only allowed to cut the branches that are touching the electrical wires. And in the past, they had some sense of what was going to happen. I don't think JCP&L looked at the divestiture. I don't think a company, Ohio Electric, I guess it is, understands that you need to trim the trees here so we don't have some of these problems. I'm going to go back to Sandy, and actually had a situation where I'm probably taking some time here, but I just got to get rid of this event here. Where there were bushes that grew up the side of the telephone pole onto the power lines. You called, they said, hey, we're going to cut the bottoms. They cut the bottoms and left the growth and said that'll naturally fall down. Well, in the middle of a rainstorm at night, I actually have the pictures on my other phone of the arcing that was going on, so they literally had to come out, turn the power off, and cut that stuff out. And of course, it's all going back again. And I just think that they need a good trimming program for the tree population we have, and I agree with you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Yardley, anyone else? Anyone else in the public?
John Snyder, Sanderson.
Mr. Hall, did you sign in? Mr. Hall? Glenn?
You didn't sign.
Did you sign?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question about the budget, the fiscal year, when is it?
January to December 31st.
It's calendar year.
So it's a calendar
Calendar year.
So where's the March and it's still?
That's pursuant to state budget law. It's the most backwards thing you ever heard of.
Well, Director Rose mentioned a word that wasn't mentioned in the presentation, solar. Where is it?
That would be, the guarantee would be in the last section of the appropriations. of other than operations. It's part of the debt service.
And the number?
$2.2 million.
$2.2 million this year.
And welding at the college. We have welding at the vocational school, I assume, do we? And what's the rationale for having it in 2 locations?
I don't know if you've been watching over the last few weeks, a lot of the major magazines, Forbes and such, have come out with the new requirements basically for college. Trying pushing that a lot of people that go with 4-year degrees or 2-year degrees, that there's more trades. And that's what they've been calling for at the community college end of things. And there's been more where we've been, the college is trying to react to that, moving to the next phase. Yes, we do have it in high school. High school doesn't take it to the next level. That's what this is. This is more trades-oriented curriculum. It's not just with welding. There's some others that are also coming along. And I can show you the data. I've been asking for white papers on this for years. It's finally starting to come out, but I'm reading it from Forbes magazine. This is what the trend is in community colleges right now.
I'm a retired vocational school teacher, so it just...
I understand, but that's, like I said,
bubbled. I had another question about the speed limits on 517, but you mentioned Andover Borough in there? Yeah, 14F, I think it was.
Andover Township.
Andover Township.
I know it's Andover Township, but I thought it was Andover Borough also. 14F. Borough of Andover and the townships of Andover and Sparta. So would that be mistaken?
That's probably.
No, it's because of the limits of the county road and what was analyzed relative to the speed study. The call for the reduction in the speed limits are around the school.
I think he's asking, you get the borough, Andover Borough.
It's on your Pope John, that's the only question.
Yeah.
But the
That's
road.
that's a typo. Andover Borough is on 206.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay.
You teachers pick up everything.
Mr. Williams, can we double check to make sure that is a typo, and if it is, if we need to do anything to modify that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Dan Kenny from Green Township. I'm not well versed in economics. My wife handles all the money. But I was looking at these top 10 items, and item number 5 I find interesting. Are the cells controlled by electronics, or are they individually locked? Certain penal institutions, it's an electric. If the electric went out, the gates are just open. I can understand that. But what is the generator for? Because they're going to time it's going to be cold. Lights.
There are requirements for HVAC and lights, yes.
Well, it just seems to me.
But there's more than that. The Sally port is electrically operated.
Yeah,
The security
the
system.
whole facility, yes.
But why can't we leave the inmates in the cold? And I mean, I'm serious about this.
The Department of Corrections does not provide.
Allow that. That ain't gonna happen.
Well, there's something intrinsically wrong with that, because if you don't become, my power was out from the Friday at 9 till the following Friday at 6 in the evening. I didn't lose any power because I invested in a generator. And my fuel delivery fare plow was perfect. They came and gave me, which I didn't need, but they came and dumped the tank for. So you have to become a lot more self-reliant, because both my daughters, one lives in Chatham, the other lives in Morris, Denton Borough. Their power went out twice. And their power was restored twice in less time than was done here. So we're like this stepchild that, you know, we don't get anything because we don't have the numbers. And I don't think that's fair. And Murphy could come up here and do
an Irish jig for all I care, along with whoever else wants to come up. We're just not getting the service, and I think that's something that the Board of Chosen Freeholders need to address to some level, because politics up here sometimes stink, you know, and what's going on. So I get a lot of lip service from people, and somebody can come in and say the senator did this and did that, but it's like, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, there are a lot of people that were really hurt on my road, because there's a lot less on our road. We were almost the last ones to get the power back after the week. And there was a couple, you know, not that I'm young, I mean, I just turned 69 yesterday, but having said that, there were other couples that had nowhere to go. One woman they were getting ready to shoot their horses because they had no water. And they couldn't get water, so they had to get the fire department to bring them water for their horses. You know, so I mean, I don't begrudge my children power, but just because you have more density in a certain area of the state, you know, we're treated less. And you know, looking at this, to be honest with you, you'd be better off next time the power goes out to get your ass arrested so they can put you in the cell, because you'll be warm. Excuse my French, but I just think it's ludicrous that we're taking care of people that are only predators. You know, that's just my 2 cents. I would let them go hungry, it wouldn't bother me in the least bit. And if that's inhumane, then so be it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public?
I have a copy for you. I already signed in because I wasn't sure of the procedure. My name is Mary Martin. I reside in Mount Tabor, New Jersey, and I work as the branch manager of the Dennis Branch Library. And I wanted to thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. I'm also the shop steward of the county library, and I'm here on behalf of my coworkers to thank you for closing county offices during last one-day storm. And I'm also here to express our concerns about the county's inclement weather policy in general and how it relates to the library specifically. On Friday, March 2nd, a powerful northeaster blew through Sussex County, knocking down dozens of trees and power lines. That day, the Sussex County Superior Courthouse was closed due to the storm, and by 8 o'clock, the daily Skylands Connect bus had also been canceled. As the storm worsened, by 10:30 in the morning, the Sheriff's 911 Center posted on Facebook that the roadways in our coverage area are in poor condition due to the winter storm, and they advised residents to please avoid any unnecessary travel. By 11 o'clock, the Sussex County Office of Emergency Management had posted on their Facebook page requesting that residents try to stay off the roads. Despite these warnings and a forecast that was projected to worsen through the day, the county did not close. At noon, our main library was forced to close because it lost power. At 1 o'clock, the Louise Childs branch in Stanhope also lost power and closed. Library workers who had made it into work at those branches were told that they could either travel to a different branch to complete their workday or take benefit leave time and go home. Given the treacherous travel conditions at that point, I believe that directing employees to report to an alternate work location or lose benefit time was not a sound decision. I don't know if any other divisions with multiple locations were similarly affected, but I believe that all employees in that situation should simply have been told to go directly home. The county's website states that it is the county's policy to remain open during inclement weather. I am here tonight to ask you to review this policy, and specifically, I would like you to please include the library as an explicit item of concern. I ask this because the library system is often open nights and Saturdays when many other county departments are closed. When bad weather happens after 5 o'clock or on Saturdays, library staffers are placed in a difficult position. We want to stay open because we want to serve the public, but we are also concerned about our own safety and the condition of the roads. Each individual branch, all of their people at that branch, end up wrestling with the decision of whether to close. And if we do make the decision to close, we misuse benefit leave time for the hours we did not work. Let me give you 2 examples of this. On Saturday, March 3rd, the day after the first northeaster, the main library and Louise Childs branches still had no power. Scheduled employees were told they must report to a branch that was open unless they chose to take leave time. A coworker who was scheduled to work at the main library at 9 o'clock in the morning reported that she couldn't get there and road conditions were not good. Route 521 was blocked in several spots by downed trees and wires, and she knew that several other county roads were also still closed, although she didn't know which ones because that wasn't listed on the OEM site. She wasn't even sure if she could make it to a different branch safely, what with all the down branches and wires, so she made the wise decision to prioritize her own safety and stayed home, using benefit leave time. An example from earlier this winter, occurred on Thursday, January 4th, when a winter storm canceled Skyland's Connect bus for the evening. The Freeholder reorganization meeting that was scheduled for that evening was also canceled. However, pardon?
1 minute.
Oh. However, the Franklin branch of the library was scheduled to be open until 8 o'clock p.m. Knowing that the roads were likely to get worse as the storm progressed, the branch staffers made the difficult decision on their own to close the library at 5 p.m. and accepted the fact that as county policy, they had to use benefit leave time for the hours they did not work. So, would it be possible to add provisions to the inclement weather policy that specifically address agencies that remain open beyond standard business hours? Ideally, we would like a chain of command that designates a person or people who are responsible for making the decision of whether to close the library if there is hazardous weather on nights and weekends. In conclusion, I want to thank you again for closing county offices this past Wednesday. I recognize that the decision of whether to close during bad weather is difficult, and on behalf of library employees, I ask you to please modify the county's inclement weather policy to clarify what should happen if bad weather occurs outside of normal business hours. It is my hope that we will not have any more bad weather to worry about this winter, and I am also happy to inform you that we're only 6 days left until the official first day of spring. Thank you for letting me speak. If you have any questions for me, you can ask them now, or I would be happy to answer them for you in the future. Did I make it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
My name is Bill DeBoer. I was at,
Mr. Board, can you just sign in?
Sure. We live on County Route 613 in Byron Township. I've been there for 18 years now. First 12 years up until Sandy was power full. So, since then, the transition that we alluded to earlier, JCP&L being transferred to an Ohio-run company, and the oversight by the BPU, in my opinion, has lacked quite a bit. And not having any other local representation on the BPU, requesting that the Board of Patrols and Freeholders do what's in their power to request them to take some action. The tree mitigation is a big problem. Our stretch of 613 had a road closure last year for probably about 2 days when we were out of power for trees that came down and broke 2 telephone poles. So it's obviously an issue that's continuing to go on. Any questions?
Mr. Wall? Any questions from the field?
I just have one. I appreciate what you're saying. County government doesn't have any jurisdiction over anything that is in our right of way.
Right.
And we do have crews that are mitigating in the right of way. I don't know what, other than the BPU, I mean, after Hurricane Sandy, Sylvia and myself both went and spoke before the BPU about the poor response at that particular time. I think the BPU has much more jurisdiction over any of this than freeholders or any municipal government.
I agree. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have any local representation on the BPU, which I find unfortunate.
After Sandy, they had meetings set up around the county so that mayors and councils and freeholders and everybody else that was a representative could come and voice their complaints. And I have to tell you that after those meetings, the communication changed. And for a while, it was excellent. So when this happened, I was expecting something much better than what happened here, because nobody could have expected what happened here. It was almost worse than Sandy for us. And I always said to them that misinformation is worse than no information, because you're following whatever you're hearing. You know, some people would have left their homes if they knew they weren't going to have power for 5 or 6 days, but they stay. Other people expect something else because they heard that their power was going up, and then when it doesn't happen, people just become more and more angry because you don't have any control over what's happening to you. So to go from Sandy, where it was a disaster, to all of these wonderful meetings, and then to have communication that was excellent, and then to go when you really need it and it falls apart again, is...
Could we possibly, as a board, request a PPU hold a public hearing up here?
What I was going to suggest to the board is the possibility of passing a resolution that would do a couple things. First, we could commend the line workers for their speedy response and thank them. We could say that the communication with JCP&L has been poor at best, and they need to work to improve it. We could express potentially that we want to see greater levels of tree trimming, and furthermore, we could express that we want to have them in to meet with us or a public meeting.
I think the BPU, when Sylvia was talking about, there was one in Pacon, wasn't it? It was Pacon Middle School, I think it was. I think that the BPU coming up here and listening directly to those that have been affected and hurt the most.
So why don't
I mean, her alone will probably bring him to tears.
Why don't we do this now?
I'll just bring him. Wait a minute. I'll bring my wife down, and she can just deal with them because she'll straighten them right out.
But I think BPU has more authority towards getting us what we require than us talking directly to JCP now.
So why don't we do that then? Why don't we consider a resolution then? And then the resolution can be forwarded on to the BPU with those requests. Would that be?
I think it's more effective for us or for residents to go to the BPU meeting.
We've lodged complaints
Because
and I passed
when you
that
go to the BPU meeting, I went through this when they put the power lines through, and we had all that nonsense then. When you go down there, you have all of them there. They're not all going to come up here. They'll send 1 or 2 people up here, but you have all of them there, and you have the floor. And when you have a large group of people that goes there, you get attention, and you do get some kind of action one way or the other, because everybody stands there going, we're not going until we get answers for what we're doing here. And the only problem with having it here is that you're only going to get 1 or 2 people.
Well, that's not how they did it last time. They had a full official meeting, recorded, all commissioners were there. Even if they have it in Morris County, it's a heck of a lot less difficult to get to.
Why don't we just, because we're probably well over a 3-minute response time, why don't we just direct Mr. Williams to produce a resolution with those 4 items on it, and we will consider it as a board at the next meeting. Would that be fair?
2 weeks? Do we have to have a resolution too?
Yeah, but this,
They're going to come up here in 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Reck, may I add a comment? They have a website for the BPU where you can make.
I've already verified.
You should definitely do that. And
everyone here, if
BPU.
you are upset with the responses, in particular the communication, I would strongly urge you to.
You absolutely should. Freeholder Lazaro is directly on point. What happens with the utilities is with private companies, you vote with your dollar. If it's bad service by Verizon, you call customer service or you go away. These are all monopolies, and that's why they're regulated by the government, and their rates are set by the BPU. So you will get the attention of any utility. It's the only way. I know Mr. Smith shaking his head. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to have more of a chance of getting their attention by going to the people who butter their bread, and that's the BPU. Then you will calling them directly.
Companion system like Sussex Rural that has 9 board members that run the utility, have local presence.
They have a unique system where
I understand.
Rural Electric has a unit where if you have a generator outside the house, they put it in, you just click it in and turn it. You don't have to go through the whole changing the electrical box, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And that is, the Board of Public Utilities does not allow JCP&L to provide that. And those are some of the things that, if it's simple, it would be some of those things that they restrict.
Well, you know what was interesting too, is the mayor's.
We have to just be careful, like, we're well past our 3 minutes here.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
You want to stay on.
And I'll put the resolution, I understand.
Your wife wants to speak?
If we want to place on a time.
We authorize 3 minutes more.
Well, we could close it to the public, finish the conversation, but
Yeah.
I think with our resolution, we should let the municipalities know we are sending this resolution, and they may want to send their own. But I think it's time to do this.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Can I respond for 1 more minute?
You're under your 5 minutes, so sure.
Okay. Glenn Hull again, HULL Layton. I don't know if I made my point clear before, but we've gone from a dairy community of pasture to a forest community that's overcrowded. And you're talking about right-of-ways now, clearing and trimming. But a 70-foot tree that's not in the right-of-way still cuts a phone line in half. And these trees are crowded, is what I'm pointing out, on private property, on park property, on state property. And these things are bigger than telephone poles, and they're past the right-of-way. And when they fall, that's the damage. The damage is not done by the power companies neglecting trimming. I don't believe that. I believe the damage is done by allowing too many trees to grow too close together with no root base to hold it there. That's my point. And it's a good valid point, because every tree I saw fall in the water gap area where I was stranded was maybe a root base this big on a 70-foot tree. I mean, that's not the way it works. Nature needs more, you know? So that's a fact. All right, thank you.
I just want to have one response on that one. It's a new forest too. 100 years ago, there were forges in this county, and that's why we had the canals and the railroads and everything else. We had forges in this county that actually clear-cut most of the county. So most of the forest right now is a relatively new forest. It's within 100 years, and that's why you're getting what Mr. Holt just said.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Seeing no one from the public, like a motion to close the meeting to the public and return to regular order of business. Motion by Lozano, second by Graham. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The floor is closed to the public. Reminders, March 15th, 3 o'clock p.m., Lakota here. March 19th, 3 o'clock p.m., Development Review Committee here. March 19th at 7:30 p.m., Agricultural Development Board here. March 20th at 1 o'clock p.m., Citizens Advisory Committee here. March 21st at 12:30 p.m., Youth Services here. March 24th, 7 o'clock p.m., the Lake Musconetcong Planning Board at the Netcom Municipal Building. March 28th at 7 o'clock p.m., regular freeholder meeting here. I have a motion to adjourn. Second motion by Patillo. Second by Graham. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The meeting is closed.